Energy security. Cabinet met yesterday, and I just thought I'll take this time with my minister. Standing with me is Minister for Petroleum and Energy. Yesterday we went through Cabinet and we invoked the provisions of the Essential Services Act, and that gives us the coverage to make certain directions and recommendations to those in the fuel sector and the banking sector to ensure that we do not jeopardize our nation in as far as fuel supply is concerned. It is a concern that has emerged of lately, possibly by way of reminder, through a 1999 agreement. The forerunner of what is now PUMA had more like a monopoly in terms of fuel wholesale importation, as well as redistribution to clients in our country. And when PUMA came on board in the last 10 years or so, they've continued under the agreement that ran from 1999. That agreement will lapse somewhere in 2027. But at this point in time, when we are under the stress in respect to reliable, constant, and consistent supply of fuel, Cabinet has met yesterday based on our officials who look through the provisions of law that would enable us to make this decision. The National Security Advisory Council met and they've offered their recommendations to Cabinet, and Cabinet passed certain decisions yesterday, of which I'm announcing to our country. Essentially, using the provisions of Section 3 and Section 2 of the Essential Services Act, that should mean that essential services defined as electricity, water, sewage, postal services, civil aviation services, radio, television services, health services, transport services, telecommunication, and access to ports and harbors, as well as other essential service remains uninterrupted, or dislocated, or the supply or the service is not diminished. Those are provisions of Section 2 of the Essential Services Act. And under Section 3, the Cabinet recommended to our head of state to make emergency declarations, and the emergency declarations were made, and that declarations includes the head of state authorizes the requisition and use of Napa refinery and related infrastructure belonging to PUMA companies for and in connection with fuel storage and fuel supply, so that petroleum products continuously brought into this facility for redistribution into the transport sector in our country, so that the services are not sabotaged and are stopped. We also appointed Deputy Prime Minister to be the lead minister to administer the effective implementation of our cabinet decisions, to be assisted by Minister for Petroleum and Energy, and has Minister for Transport, Minister for State-owned Enterprises, Minister for Foreign Affairs, and Minister for Justice, who are part of this ministerial committee that will oversight these emergency declarations to ensure it is fully implemented. We've also tasked all necessary agencies of state, the National Energy Authority, the Office of State Solicitor, Department of Petroleum, Department of Treasury, Department of Lands and Fiscal Planning, Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited, Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited, and other relevant agencies to work together to ensure that fuel, the immediate needs of fuel, is maintained in this instance. Liaison with PUMA as the fuel supplier, and our liaison with other fuel suppliers, ExxonMobil and Total, is maintained, so that we don't compromise fuel supply in our country. These state agencies are mobilized to pull together. I just want to include at this juncture of my press that over 9 months ago, Cabinet decided earlier committee to work in this matter. The earlier committee was presided over by the recent past Petroleum and Energy Minister. Unfortunately, substantial progress was never made. in this sort of front, but it is not late. I want to appreciate PUMA. I want to appreciate Bank of PNG. I want to appreciate BSP and Kina Bank. These four major businesses in our country for understanding that energy must be supplied in our country. Petroleum products must continue to be supplied. So despite some procedural and requirement loggerheads with the central bank and the commercial banks, I think in the national interest they were able to find meeting points in which we continue to work up till today. And so for short-term measures, the head of state has issued emergency declaration and an appropriate minister. And in this instance, the Minister for Petroleum and Energy to issue requisition and direct PUMA to continue on the fuel supply in all areas of fuel needs, especially in the space of the air transportations. We had a subsidiary arrangements where PUMA and a subsidiary company are the only two ones with the capacity to deliver to our airlines right now in terms of the aviation fuels. And so this instructions covers them, that PUMA and PIL and every other who work in the airline space are directed to continue on taking in fuel and to supply fuel to our airline industry, and they're not affected. The minister administrating this one, Minister for Petroleum and Energy, will have oversight in this one. This includes that continuous supply. We also, Cabinet has already decided that under emergency order that BSP would continue to hold PUMA's account for 1 year. BSP will continue to hold PUMA's account for 1 year, and we work through the issues they might have. Under this Cabinet instructions also, ask Central Bank to furnish to national government what is the issues they have with PUMA. They've given a month to furnish to the government the issues they may have had with PUMA that has caused stress for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And so Central Bank has now been compelled to furnish the report within a month. And PUMA, as a business in our country, has every right to ask what is the black spot, what is the black label that makes a Central Bank have an issue with us, notwithstanding the fact that commercial banks also have their own right to hold accounts with the client, and that is another matter. So with respect to individual commercial banks having a right to hold accounts, we've asked BSP to maintain PUMA's account for 1 more year for us to work through what needs to be worked in, especially getting a report from Central Bank, and for us as a country looking at alternate solutions. I want to also indicate that in the medium term, through this we will enact laws. When we come back to Parliament in May, we'll pass certain laws that will reduce the monopoly of fuel supply and will open up the market. And this Cabinet also has allowed for Kumul Petroleum Holdings Limited to be our national energy company that will work with subsidiaries in our country for the importation of fuel and for redistributions of fuel in our country. That 1999's monopoly agreement has really changed us into the situation we are in today, and Cabinet has taken a decision. In the decision also, we're asking our state solicitor and the team to review the 1999 agreement with PUMA to see whether compliance on the part of PUMA or compliance on the part of us as a country has been met, and we'll see. We will also be looking into this space so that in the midterm we find an alternate legal pathway to ensure we're not restricted to only one supplier, but we have ability to also import fuel elsewhere. And working with Kumul Petroleum as the nation's energy company, we're looking to also diversify and import fuels elsewhere, especially in the aviation fuel sector. In the long term, we're also looking at possibility of setting up with Kumul and subsidiaries additional infrastructure for fuel storage. We're looking at working with US under the Defense Cooperation Agreement for possibility of fuel bunkering in Lae and Port Moresby and possibly Manus for long-term fuel security. This is something we're working on in our national interest, to have fuel storage that is not dependent on companies and selling fuel to us, but as a nation securing our energy security in the fuel bunkering and fuel storage that Kumul Petroleum Holdings is tasked to get out there and have a look into. I did also made mention earlier, we will also be looking at possibility of at fair market value. A PUMA is found to be not good to work in the economy, then at fair market value, we're looking to work at picking up the infrastructure they have in Napa Napa. Those have been decided upon, and part of the review will take place in the 1999 agreement in as far as with the Napa Napa project agreement is concerned. We'll look through all of this and have a holistic approach for long-term fuel security of our country. I thought I'd bring this announcement to our country. I want to apologize if the nation has been under stress in respect to fuel. This is what it is. We have these monopolistic arrangements in as far as PUMA supply. PUMA currently occupies quite a substantial part of our market, but we're working at working through legal means to unbundle the monopoly. We're also looking at ensuring that Kumul is prepared to bring in additional gas. I want to thank at this point in time ExxonMobil for bringing an additional cargo of jet fuel as well as fuel to fill in the gap. In any case, PUMA completely decides to shut down on us. But with this decisions that we've taken, it's a decision to compel. Penalties are attached with it if those who we pass directions to do not comply. Under the Essential Services Act, there are penalties for those who fail to comply, and we're willing to deploy every legal means possible to ensure that our country's fuel is not sabotaged. Our planes keep flying, our cars keep moving on. And I want to indicate that later this week, Deputy Prime Minister will head a body of ministers. They'll be relaying this to PUMA, they'll be relaying this to BSP, they'll be relaying this to Central Bank to ensure that we all work in tandem and we will work together to find midterm, our short-term, midterm, and of course our long-term solution for energy security. Cabinet has also directed that the bank, the commercial bank that facilitates and support PUMA in this instance, as well as other importers of fuel, ExxonMobil, Total, and other individual importers of fuel. Cabinet has made a direction that Central Bank, as well as will ensure enough supply of forex goes to that commercial bank. We also have directed all our state-owned enterprises to relocate the US dollar holding accounts into those commercial banks, so we have a regular supply of forex for fuel importations into our country. So those were decisions we took yesterday to ensure that we don't compromise our fuel support. I want to indicate that Australia government has always been on standby. They've indicated that they are on standby to assist wherever possible in as far as our fuel security is concerned. Whilst we were faced with the imminent danger of complete fuel shutdown, but we had facilities at every stage opened, including bilateral facilities, as well as other suppliers like Exxon rerouted at short notice a ship that was going to Pacific, that was rerouted to be on standby in the event that we hit rock bottom at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. So I want to indicate to our country, Cabinet has been working. This is a serious matter. We have contractual obligation to PUMA's monopoly in our country. We need to give respect to agreements they've had. We treat this diligently without sending a negative signal that Essential Services Act could be deployed at any one time. But we've reached a stage where we felt that the Essential Services Act provisions can be deployed and was deployed yesterday. Head of State has declared fuel emergency. There's a Minister Administrator appointed already in Minister Maladina to ensure that implementations are rolled out. as a higher committee of ministers and the Deputy Prime Minister is assembled to negotiate with PUMA, negotiate with negotiate with the banks and central bank to ensure all of us work together without compromising our nation's security needs in as far as fuel is concerned.